Okay, this section, Rational Developer for System Z, is about development. I'm going to probably quickly go through the charts because I want to get on RDZ and do a live demonstration. Now, I believe Bruce sent you a note because you can download a trial copy of this and actually use it yourself if you've never used it. So I will not be calling it Rational Developer for System Z. I'm just going to say RDZ. And now I believe they've even renamed it to Rational Developer for Z Enterprise. So I want you to understand that RDZ is an alternative to TSO, ISPF, and SDSF for development. Anything that you do in TSO, ISPF, and SDSF, you can do in RDZ. And quite frequently, when I was new using RDZ, I would always think I discovered something that I could do in TSO, ISPF, and SDSF, and I would get a hold of one of the RDZ guys that knows it really well, and I would say, hey, I think I've discovered one. And every time I would, they'd say, oh, no, let me tell you how to do that. You just don't know how to do it. And then they would not only show it to me, they would say, and look at what else you can do beyond that. So it's very, very function-rich. So RDZ is a modern development tool, Eclipse-based IDE, and RDZ is capable as a multi-platform development tool, and you're going to see that. So that's what I want you to get out of this objective. Ron Bauer just pointed out on the chat line that there's actually a certification for RDZ. That's one certification I may be interested in taking myself. Okay, Rational Developer for System Z, as I mentioned, it's an Eclipse-based integrated development environment, IDE. If you want to understand Eclipse, you can look at eclipse.org. Many things we use, in fact, this presentation we're using has got Eclipse software in it. Over on the right is the chat line, and I've got other things in here. This is kind of Eclipse-based. So RDZ, the IDE, brings together all the programming tools into one convenient place. And of course, it's a graphical user interface. As I mentioned, and I won't spend a lot of time here, it's an alternative to TSO, ISPF, and SDSF. And I'm going to be demonstrating that. So some of the features and functions within it, you have a whole area called preferences. And within the preferences, you've got session configuration capability, and it's very rich how you can set up the session itself. But inside of Rational Developer for System Z, you can select and switch between different perspectives, such as database development, Java development, ZOS projects, web development. And so there's different perspectives that you can have running and switch between the perspectives. You can also connect and disconnect. Actually, I should just say connect to a ZOS and, of course, disconnect from it. But once you connect, you can get to your data sets, your Unix files. You can allocate new data sets. You can see all the data set characteristics. You've got an editor. You can submit JCL from there. You can look at the output. You can get a TSO command shell. You can get a Unix command shell. You can actually connect to DB2 and look at all of your data and databases and structures. There's a CICS Explorer. There's even a TN3270 emulator inside of Rational RDZ. Oh, yeah, to transfer data between systems, you could be connected to multiple ZOSs and to different Linuxes, different Unixes, different Windows, and you can actually drag and drop data across systems, and it just transfers the data. So RDZ, you're going to be seeing it. This is a very bad picture, but this is Eclipse-based, and I'm going to be demonstrating this a little bit later, and this is what the GUI kind of looks like with the different panels here, and this is a particular type of perspective that we've got running, and I'm going to be demonstrating this. So RDZ, you can develop in any of the languages. The target code could be written on any of the middleware. So I'm not going to read these. It's very, very rich. So the point of this screen is, and this is one thing that I was doing earlier, is what you find is that people usually edit JCL, they submit the JCL, they swap to SDSF, select the job, maybe find an error, they find the code line, then they swap to the edit session, then they may exit the JCL, edit the source code, find the line of source code they want to change the code, exit the source, edit the JCL, and they were doing this over and over and over again as part of development. You know, you make source code changes, submit it, see if it works, doesn't, and so they were doing this, and they had to, and many times you would split the screen and swap between them. This is the ISPF-based development type of paradigm. Well, the whole paradigm in SDSF is you have different panes here where you can get information and you just click on the area that you want to see things. So that's the Eclipse-based model where it's all available to you. The other thing you can do is if you double click on any one tab, that tab would go big. Double click it again, that tab goes small, or you can resize the different windows. You can also do things like even create CICS 3270 maps. And there's a nice little layout for creating a 3270 map. The same thing holds true for IMS, Message Format Services. And the IMS Transaction Manager Message Format Services, that's 3270 screens. Well, there's a little template to create these screens, these 3270 screens, either for CICS or for IMS. So that exists inside of there. So it'll even cover some of the traditional technology that still gets used today. In the data perspective, you can actually go and actually look at your tables. In fact, they've made it so easy that I'm going to show you this. You can go edit your table and actually just literally type it in a record like it's an editor, and it'll do an insert, or you can delete records. And I'll show you that. So there actually is a database, a DB2 workbench type of environment built into the product. So it has a lot of problem determination tools within it too for debugging. And while I'm thinking about it, I'll let you know, mobile development, it's now capable of, we've got a product called WorkLight for developing mobile applications, and there's an RDZ plugin for WorkLight for developing mobile apps. But there's all kinds of debugging and analyzing tools inside of here. Reducing training costs. So it turns out that there are some younger developers, they've maybe never used ZOS before, and they're not familiar with TSO, ISPF, or SDSF, and they start using RDZ, and they start using it very fast because many of them are used to building in Eclipse now on other platforms, and then this just ZOS environment looks like any other platform. So it's a common look and feel for all platforms for development using this Eclipse-based IDE model. Attracts younger developers, and that's really true. Now, this is more of a marketing chart. It's from several years ago where they always try to let the money people know that there are people that measured this, and RDZ definitely can save you money. And I can tell you this, RDZ, I don't get involved in the sales figures or anything else, but I pretty much know RDZ is doing very, very well across the world. When I was in Riyadh in December, I actually demonstrated this to a couple of people, and I had to go back in January. And when I went back in January, one of the companies says, "Oh yeah, we bought RDZ." Well, during the past month, and we're using it now. That's how useful it was to them. There's lots of RDZ education assistance, and I'm going to show you that when I bring up the product. So I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate this product so that you get a better feel for all of this, how it's an alternative to TSO, ISPF, and SDSF, how it's a modern development tool, and it's capable of multi-platform development. So let me go ahead and screen share. Just before I bring up the product, I want to show you how we're doing things on the mainframe when it comes to RDZ. So if I do a TSO netstat byte, you'll actually see that I haven't started it yet. Oh, we still have all that running, so things will be a little slow. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. If it's okay with you, I'm going to bring down WebSphere application server just because to give us more frames. So let me stop that real quick. I think I just have to cancel that one and we'll get all the rest. Pardon? Oh, well, yeah, we won't need the IPL. I think this will bring it down. This will just free up a lot more frames for us. Kind of persistent out there. Yeah. He's working on cleaning up. But the reason I'm doing this is because there's a couple of address spaces that we need on the mainframe for running RDZ. Because the RDZ is a client piece that got a socket connection to the mainframe for doing all the work. So while this is coming down, I'll go ahead and start those. So I'm going to start some JCL, which is going to be a started daemon, and we name it RSED. RSED, Remote System Explorer Daemon. So I'm going to start that. And let's see if it comes up okay. Right here is where I did the start. And it done, and right here here's the FEK messages, and the product FEK is RDZ. Oh yeah, DB2 went down. Oh, oh right, and someone pointed out in the room here, so it's up and running. So I'm going to start one other component. Actually, I'm going to start two other components. Start JMON, the JES monitor. And JMON started, and then I'm going to start something called LockD. LockD, the lock daemon, if you're editing a file or you got an NQ on a file in your client workstation, it will actually NQ it, not let other people get to it. So it's managing locking for exclusive use. So now that that's running, if I do a TSO netstat byte, we'll actually see Oh, someone's already connected to it. Here's JMON listening on 6715, and here's RSED listening on 4035. So I'm going to connect to it from my workstation, and I'm going to bring up the product. I've installed the product on my workstation. And let me see if I can find it here. Right here, Rational Developer for Z, System Z 8.5. And what I want to do is bring up a brand new one. You can have different workspaces with different definitions in it. It saved the configuration you did last time. But I want to bring it up like I'm a brand new user. And now that I think about it, I'm running this on my Windows workstation. It's only got 2 gig on it. So I'm going to call this one class as a new workspace, so it should come up brand new. It says you don't have any metadata in there. So he's loading some of the plugins. It's a big Java application. If you don't have the trial loaded, you could feel free to load one and try to connect later. It immediately puts you into the welcome. Now, I will tell you in the welcome, if you actually go down here, there's all kinds of tutorials and all kinds of information on the welcome that can help you understand the product. And if you want to get rid of the web resources, first steps, what's new, samples. Oh, samples, John Sales put a bunch of really cool samples out there. Tutorials, overview. So you get the idea. So if you close this welcome, it throws you into the working one. And John put this out here, Getting Started catalog, just information to help you get started. But if you want the welcome again, just go help welcome. And there's that welcome again, in case you want to look at some of those other resources on the internet. But let me show you how to use this product. So I'm going to move some windows around here. And I can connect to different Linux machines, different local machines. What's local mean? Typically Windows. Different Unix machines, different ZOS machines. And this local right here is my personal workstation. But if I want to connect to a ZOS, I go right-click, New Connection. It says, who do you want to connect to? Well, I want to connect to 192.86.32.14, and I don't need to verify it. Next. And it says, oh, the remote daemon for Unix files, how about 4035? Yep, 4035 is fine. That's normally the default. I'm not going to do SSH. I could, but you have to tweak something up on the host, too, to do SSH. So I said 40 remote daemon, yeah, 4035 for Unix files is fine. And then how about MVS files? Okay, remote daemon 4035, fine, finish. Okay, so there it is, but, oh, I don't like it as the IP address. I want to rename that. So I'll just rename that and call it class. My class system, because I could have many systems here. Now, what I can do here, if I do a right click, one of the many things here is to connect to really do the RDZ work, but look at this. Here's a host connection emulator. So let me try that. And what it'll do is it'll go out to that IP address and try to connect. Unfortunately, what it's going to do is connect to port 23, but that's not what we want. So I go down here to the Host Properties tab, and I say I want port 623, and I want the screen size to be 43 by 80, and I don't particularly like code page 037. I want 1047 to give me the program character set. Then I can say disconnect and connect. There's the system. But I don't plan to use that here. What I really want to do, right-click, connect, and I'm going to log on with a full authority ID first time because I want to do something with DB2. It says, we're not using SSL. Is that okay? Yeah. So it's connecting. And once it connects, here's my IBM user data sets. Now, what if I want to see somebody else's data sets, like the pattern matching? Easy enough. New filter. I want to see ZIBM 049 data sets. Next. Filter name ZIBM 049. Next. Finish. Now, I have another filter here, ZIBM 49. There's all the ZIBM 049 data sets. If I go into a partition data set, here's a bunch of JCL. Let's say, for instance, I go to this JCL right here, USS JCL, double click it. This is what I submitted this morning early. There it is. Now, I want you to know something. See that line number? The editor selection. This is a place where I want to branch to the preferences for a minute, and I'll explain why. Windows preferences. Lots of different things you can do. I want to check out something called, let's see, I think it's the LPEX editor right here. So this thing called LPEX has been around for a long time, but you can choose your editor of choice for editing the data wherever it's coming from. I'll just say ISPF, because you can do VI, but you pick your editor of choice. So you can treat it like notepad stuff too. So I could change this if I wanted. I don't need to change it, but here's what I want to do. I want to submit it. So if I do a right click, here's submit, and it came back and said job 00541 has been submitted to the remote system class. Okay, but then what I can do, oh, that's not going to run. One reason it's not going to run is because, let me go look at that again and see if I have, no, this will run because I thought I put an ampersand SysUID in the JCL and I have not. If I put ampersand SysUID, I'm logged on with the IBM user. So this should run. So let me go to the JES icon, expand it. I want my jobs, and there's job USS JCL. If I select the whole thing, I'll see all of it. If I expand it by doing the plus, I get it broken down by DD name. Ah, there's an error. I got a standard error here. I want to see what's in there. So if I click on that DD, oh, it actually told me the Java compile was not found. And I'll have to look and see why. But anyway, the whole idea here is I've got the job, the output. If I want to see all jobs, watch this. Remember how we had filters in SDSF? Well, we've got the filter set by job owner, ampersand user ID. Well, I want a filter that shows me everything, if you have the authority to see everything. Next, what do you want to call it? All. Next, finish. Now, if I look at all, it has everything in the queue, including the system log. So if I look at the system log, oh, this is one thing they were going to change for me because I mentioned to them this was not a good way to do it. By default, this job contains 6,761 lines, which exceeds your specified job output retrieval limit, which you can probably change. So here the selection is show output from the first line to line number 5000. Well, as soon as I saw that, I called the RDZ guys and I said, if you have to limit it from the last line up, because the lines you're really interested are at the bottom. Okay? But so what I'm going to do is just say, show the complete job output. So if I do that, it's retrieving all 6,000 lines, and here is my system log. Now, let's go ahead and do, there's many things you can do here, but I just want to hit the highlights. And oh, by the way, notice that every time I do something, I've got a different tab here. And actually, there's 4 tabs. So one of these was my 3270 session. See, so all the things you open up are just different tabs. And a tab, if you double-click a tab, it goes big. If you double-click it again, it goes small. Okay. Yeah, absolutely. We're going to have Vance be demoing some stuff as well. But before Vance demos some stuff, I'm going to change perspectives. I want a data perspective. If you want to log on with a different ID to do things, you know, feel free. Yeah, but Vance, who's in the room, is very good with this. And he's going to be demonstrating some things himself. So with the data perspective, I want to connect to some databases. New. Look at all the database types I can connect to. Those are all the different database types I can connect to. And I can have multiple connections to each of those database types, like all the data is right here on my workstation. So in this case, I want to connect to DB2 for ZOS. The location is Dallas 9. The host is the IP address. The port number, I believe, was 5025. And I'm going to log on with IBM user. So it's thinking right now. I hope I gave it the right password. If I didn't, it's going to tell me here in a minute. And finish. Now, while that's connecting, that 3270 emulator, TSO, netstat, byte, and I can see we have several people connected to RDZ. One is me. I'm assuming one may be Vance. Anybody else connected? It could be somebody remote is connected. So let me go back to my client. Okay, so here's Dallas 9. So I'm going to expand it. And what I'm going to do is I want to look at the schemas. Well, one schema that's out there is me, because under ZIBM 49, I loaded a table. So if I expand ZIBM 049, and I look at tables, here's my table. I can right-click. It says, what do you want to do? Would you, data-wise, would you like to return all rows? Would you like to edit it, load it, extract it? Well, I'll just edit it. There's my table. And what's real interesting, if I want to add a new row, I can just type it in. 2009, was it 2010, to 2014, 2014. Now put an amount. and a balance and a name. Yeah. And I think some of these are not null, so I just, and comments. And then if I were to just X this, it saved the changes. It actually did an insert into the database. So now, or the table, I should say. So now if I edit the date again, we'll see that in there. There it is. And I can delete any data from here. Oops. Oh, that's for an import. Yeah, I won't delete that right now. But I can connect to many, many different data sources. And all of it can be here at the workstation, and then I can do different things. So I was going to be doing a little bit more with this potentially tomorrow morning, showing you some of the labs using RDZ. But before we break, I'm going to let Vance maybe demonstrate some of the things he likes to do with this environment. Did you want me to log off it or just stay on this one? Okay. Let me cancel this. So we're going to let Vance, he's going to come up here and talk a little bit and drive and demonstrate a few things that he likes to do with the product. This is a brand new system, so not a whole lot has been configured.
Yeah. I was just going to show some of the capabilities of RDZ itself. For one thing, let me switch back to the ZOS perspective, projects perspective. One thing I like to do, being a systems programmer, you spend a lot of time in the green screen, so I generally won't have a project space. I won't use this project space, so I'll just minimize it to the left. And submitting a lot of jobs, editing JCL, and then submitting the job, and then looking at the output, editing JCL. Doing that sort of routine, it's handy. Sometimes it's kind of annoying to have to scroll up and down here, so Eclipse being so modular and customizable, you can actually take this view of my jobs and show in table. We'll bring it up down here in the bottom section, and then I actually like to then drag that tab up over here so I get it next to my data set view. So that way I can submit a job and immediately be able to access its output right here.
Without scrolling.
Without the scrolling, right. So for example, I wanted to, I think you had the IBM 49.
Yeah. But I'm not logged on as 49.
I think you can still submit the job.
Yeah. You can.
Yeah. I wanted to look at the JCL for the COBOL.
Yep.
So we'll bring up this JCL, and it's pretty nice, you know, with the syntax highlighting and everything. And one thing that you can do, Paul, you don't have to submit the job from the remote systems view. You can submit JCL right here in the right click's not. You can just right click anywhere in the JCL and submit. And then you don't have to, well, if you click OK, and then you come over here and refresh this view. It'll come up here. You can pull it up. But the other thing you can do is just locate the job. I'll submit it again. Right on submit, you can go to locate job, and it'll scroll in the view to that job for you. So that's another way to get around. That's really nice about RDZ is the more you play with it and the more you get used to using it, you kind of customize it for what your workflow is. You can really go pretty far with it and make it do some pretty neat things.
I really like that feature of putting that on the right. I've never learned to do that. I need to pick up that trick from you.
Yeah, it's all a matter of what information do you need to get your job done, right? If you need this data source explorer and this other information, but you don't need the data project explorer space, you know, just kind of minimize it out of the way. If you want this tab to be down here, you know, it's pretty much just an environment that lets you can put the pieces that you need where you want them.
And it remembers after you log on.
Right, yeah, you just close it, it saves your workspace. If you ever want, like, let's say you have two roles, maybe you're a developer half the time and you're a systems programmer the other time, so you might have a workspace for both of those roles, and so you can actually come in here and create a new workspace and then switch between them for projects. So you go to switch workspace, and
you can bring up one of those other ones if you wanted, like Robert Morris University.
Yeah, so okay, so you have some already defined, and you just switch to that workspace. Do you want to save this workspace? Sure, I guess, or no?
Oh, yes, it's done that.
Okay.
Because there's always, it's very easy, I've discovered, to go back to the default perspective, too.
Right. So it'll close that workspace and open up a new workspace for you.
Sorry. So once you come up, you might want to show them the Unix shell prompt and the TSO command prompt.
Okay.
As well.
Yeah, sure. Is this going to connect to their system? Probably, yeah.
It might. I've got the database perspective there. You might want to.
Let me switch back to our workspace that we're working in.
And while we're waiting for that to come up, of course, you can connect to multiple ZOS environments from the same workspace. A lot of people do that.
Yeah, and another thing is, you know, doing the EBCDIC to ASCII conversion, it'll do all that for you if you're just dragging data sets and files around.
Between systems.
Right. So let's see, we'll go to the ZOS perspective. Log back in here. I'll just log in as me. Yeah, so if you want to get a TSO, if you don't want to use the green screen and you just need to enter one.
Well, you might, actually, right there at the top is the Unix files.
Okay. Yeah, so here you've got, the Unix files and Unix system services. So you can start at the root directory and move down. Your home directory is easily accessible, or you can also, I think you can create a new filter just like you can with the MVS data sets. So if you wanted to filter on the Etsy folder, everything inside the Etsy folder, and we'll name it Etsy. So now we've got that directory listed there, and you can quickly get to the contents of that directory. And then if you want a TSO command prompt without going and logging in through TSO and the green screen, you can launch a shell right here and enter your commands like
That's that light.
comma byte.
No, another comma.
Byte. So enter that command and it failed because
I've got a fix to make. I probably didn't. Oh, right there. The message where it says FEK proc. That's a configuration thing. I just need to fix that.
okay.
Yeah. So
Okay. So that's,
I've got just a minor configuration adjustment to make that work.
yeah, and that's probably in the logs too if we went and looked, right?
But what you can get, you can actually show them the Unix shell, and that'll work. But that TSO command shell does work. I just need to make one minor adjustment. This is a brand new system.
I don't know where you get the Unix shell.
Oh, the Unix, it says it's on top. There it is.
Ah, yeah. So yeah, also Unix shell here. So let's see if this works. You can do like a.
Should get another.
Not working directory here.
You can do uname minus uppercase I and A.
Actually, I think.
Is that? I believe that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, we just weren't seeing the full
yeah.
screen there, so you can see. So you can get a shell here too.
Yep.
Yeah. That's just the stuff I was going to show you very quickly.
So, any questions about RDZ at this point?
Oh, there was one in the chat, and I also wanted to address that too. There was a question about PL1 and assembler SDKs, and there's not really.
Well, there's a toolkit for assembler, but that comes with ZOS base anyway.
Yeah, I mean most of the SDK kind of stuff you'll get, I think, for PL1 and really for any language you pick is going to be in the editor, and it's going to be stuff like. Didn't mean to make that big, but doing formatting of your code or syntax coloring. There's also, I think you can create like boilerplate stuff. So if you have like these templates in PL1, yeah. So if you just want to create some templates, and then you can quickly load them into your code and go back and edit them to do what you need to do. It does have that sort of functionality. And it can detect syntax of the data set that you're editing, much like the ISPF editor will, and do highlighting. It'll do automatic highlighting for that data set.